Good evening. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. It's great to see all of you tonight, and particularly so many of our teachers and service personnel. We're really always happy to have you and glad to see you tonight. Call this meeting to order. I understand we have some guests from Wright Denny to lead us in the pledge.
We do. Thank you all for having us. We do have our student government officers at Wright Denny here with us this evening. We have Brady Emery, Kayla Holloman, and Maddie Hardy. And one thing I think I've probably brought up to this group before was we love the way our student government helps us run the building, but this year's group has put a main focus on putting others first. Drives for needs of students, for supplies within the building, hats, coats, gloves, things like that, not cats. But I guess if they want those, we can probably work that out too. And not only within the building, but also within the community with canned food drives and things like that. So we do have their group with us this evening, and Ms. Payne, their sponsor, is going to get a pick, I think, for us as they lead us for the pledge. So you guys hop on up.
We invite you to stand and join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Did you get that picture? Okay.
I got one.
Good.
Thanks for letting me print it out.
Thank you, students. Good evening. We have some business partners.
We do have some business partners. We're lucky to have 3 businesses that have volunteered to step up and partner with 3 of our schools. We're excited to introduce those partnerships tonight. We'll start with Made in the Shade Landscaping. Representing Made in the Shade is Mr. Jason Shade, the owner. They're going to be teaming up with South Jefferson Elementary School, who's represented by their capable principal, Mr. Jenkins. So, Made in the Shade and South Jefferson Elementary School.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. This is a very special honor for me tonight because this young man here is one of my students when I was a teacher at Martinsburg High School. And he's from Berkeley County, and I'm just tickled to death to see he's doing really well for himself and has a nice family, has quite a business up there. So it just makes me feel good inside to have one of my students here with me.
I'd like to thank Mr. Jenkins for inviting me to be a business partner. I've known Mr. Jenkins probably about 25 years now. He was my FFA advisor at Martinsburg High School. And because of his influence, that's the reason what I do today. He influenced me not only in agriculture, but in horticulture. And it's led me, like I said, to where I'm at today with my business. I've had my business now for 10 years, full-time, 15 altogether. But I've been in this type of business for 25 years now. So I started at 16, and it was because of his encouragement and his direction.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Now, he keeps threatening to retire, so maybe you'll put him to work.
I plan on putting in work.
There you go. Job security, right? Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Jason. We look forward to having you as a partner with the school system.
Thank you.
Jason did a summer pond project for us out to the school, so it's really nice.
Excellent.
In our outdoor classroom.
Well, that is wonderful news. As you know, we work with Career Tech Ed, and we have completers, and I'm working on my placement now. And one of the things the state wants to know is what our completers are doing. Are they going to school? Are they working in their field? So that's a perfect example of a completer getting employed in their field. So that's great. Good job.
Thank you.
Our second partnership is going to be with North Jefferson Elementary School, who's represented by Ms. Schaefer, Ms. Nicole Johnson over there tonight. And also, they're going to be teaming up with Lousy Tab and Sons, represented by Miss Jane Tab tonight.
Welcome.
Good evening. Welcome.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. This is Miss Jane Tabb. She's representing, as he said, Lousy, Tabb and Son. We have the pleasure of partnering with them, and they have already done quite a bit for our school. Miss Kitty Hall, our interim principal, has called on them to help with a few things with our playgrounds and other things around the school, and every time they have called, they have generously donated to the school and stepped up and helped. So we just wanted to say thank you for what you've done already, and we look forward to working with you.
Yeah. Well, we're honored to be formally made business partners. All four of my kids attended North Jefferson and have become successful adults. And, we're a family farm, and we believe in investing in our community.
And you do it very well.
I was fortunate enough to go to their business partner breakfast they had less than a month ago. Miss Tabb was already there with several other partners. It was a really nice event they had there at North Jefferson.
Now, you need to get them to come back for maybe a business partner dinner and bring some of those steaks.
There we go.
Madam Commissioner, it's always a pleasure to see you and to have you here, and we appreciate not only the service that you give to this community, but also the great relationship that you have with this Board of Education. We appreciate being able to talk to you and work with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And our third business partnership is with 7-Eleven Corporation. They actually have a couple stores here in the county. I'll let them tell you about those. We're going to join up with Wright Denny Intermediate School. Representing 7-Eleven is going to be the Shaw brothers. I think Mr. Ritesh is going to go up and do the actual signing, along with Principal Chris Walters. I think he's going to introduce their person.
I'd like to welcome them as business partners, and also want to acknowledge Joyce Fisher, who's here with us this evening. Joyce serves as our business partner liaison, does a great job of reaching out to our people each year, making sure our connections are the same, asking them how we can help them, and have a little bit of reciprocity between each other, so it's not always a take. So if Ms. Fisher could come up with us and introduce them as we make some signatures.
It is an honor to have you both here tonight. I have been having my lunches every day, almost, at 7-Eleven for 12 years now. And I can tell you that this is just, our community depends on them. You know, you're low on gas, that's where you go. Coming off the mountain, it's 7-Eleven, and it's an honor to have them.
Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to be a business partner. Both of us, my brother and myself, we both finished our education, and we want to give back to something to the community. Being a store operator, there was a different way that we could have done it, but this is the best way we found that to give something back to the community and help them out as much as we can. Education is the basic part of everybody's life, and I think we might be able to help them something out and then build up a next generation.
Excellent. Well, thank both of you. We appreciate both of you being here, and you've certainly partnered with a great community school.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Salsis, thank you, sir. Madam Superintendent, you have some presentations this evening?
Yes, sir, we certainly do. We actually have two presentations that are somewhat interrelated. Both of them are regarding some of the business efficiencies around the school system, what our maintenance department is doing, working towards an overall energy efficiency plan for the system, and what some outside partners in the community are doing in Charlestown and in the area to work on sustainability in our community and what we can all do to work towards that. And I think they'll be very complimentary. So we'll start with Mr. Moran, who is our coordinator for maintenance.
Good evening, Mr. Moran. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Very good. We're gonna have to figure out why we
I think that you have Ms.
Did I unplug
McGinnis's
something?
up. Yeah, here. See if I can close it.
Oh, you can give Ms. McGinnis's presentation if you like.
We can reverse it. I mean, I can try.
No, that's fine. There we go. But it shouldn't be coming up. All right, here, I'll just close it. There. I don't know if yours, I don't know how to pull yours up though.
Technical difficulties, gotta love them, right?
Touch screen?
No, it's way too old for touch. I mean, drop next door real fast.
Okay, so
Because we
you're,
had both of them at the same time.
Well, we don't need this right away. I'll move a little bit closer for a little bit. To give you a little bit of the history of this, when I first was taken on, one of the things as you look across your board inside your department is to determine what you're not doing or what you are doing and where you're doing well and what you need to pick back up and get back on track. So I had many tasks to take into consideration. And one of the things that I had conversations with before I came here was with Madeline Stoltz from the Department of Ed, who comes and actually does a couple of things for us with not only reviewing our buildings because of dollars that we've been given to, but just because it is one of the things that previously I started with her in conversation about wanting to achieve what I'm going to present to you with the portfolio manager, and how that implementation could help us in assuring that we were on track in basically an energy efficient way. So Madeline basically, I don't want to say donated, but basically donated over 20 days of her life in our county, and created the portfolio as I'll present it to you, with massive discussion, times when we didn't really want to talk to each other anymore because it was getting kind of frustrating, but actually enjoyment too, because we actually had to go physically and look at a couple things that I wasn't even familiar with. What that history or what that program does is it takes everything into account, from computers, the number of people in the building. It looks at faculty, obviously, staff, those things, current student numbers, those all change. And then it processes into what we get billed. And we put that all into this and turn around, and lo and behold, you come up with a bunch of numbers and a bunch of information that's data oriented. It has been roughly since we kind of basically gave a definitive date in December and said, I think we're okay right now. Like, I think we've gotten to the point of where we have all the buildings and everything in, and we're not missing any numbers. We're not missing any, just we felt good about where we were. And then that's when Dr. Gibson said, hey, the board really wants to understand some stuff. Can you come and show? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So we moved from that, bringing in all the big wigs now, everybody's coming in. They're all like, hey, what's going on? So we moved into that, and we got Portfolio Manager created and started. And what happens is, how this process works, when we get all our bills, Sue Kogo in my office takes them, and then she enters all the information. And then that data is in there, and then we review it as we go. It has started a process and given us a baseline. We're not quite there yet, meaning our history, our data that we have, isn't even over a year yet. And they really recommend a year. This manager is basically the start of something for us to grow from, something for us to set achievement goals, to set parameters, and say, look, we want to decrease here, increase here. We need to change, we got to change some things out, whether it be looking at the, lighting, whether you're looking at, whether we're looking at hot water heaters, whether we're looking at the basics of a projector, just all of it. So, lo and behold, now we can rock a little bit more in depth. But Portfolio Manager's created, what it comes up with is this base chart in front of you.
I'm going to scroll a little bit just to give you an idea. What you're looking at, hopefully everybody can see. Do you want to kill the low light?
Does anyone see them? This is what they really
You can. We can give you a login, and you can log in and see them.
So what you have is all 22 properties that we consider, and so they're all listed here, okay? And if I go too fast with this, I apologize.
So just for starters, show us what your columns.
Okay.
Or unless
So what
you're going to
you-
go through that.
Yeah, I am. So what you have right away is you actually have the current date or the last time we had information entered. Part of the reason why those dates are different is because of the way we get billed. So when we get a bill, remember, it's only when we get the bill and we've
And
actually...
these bills are from who?
Water department, power company, gas, oil, our heating oil, okay? And then the next column over is your Energy Star score. Now that Energy Star score is just like anything else. When you go buy a dishwasher, when you go buy a new refrigerator, when you go buy anything like that, you see that score. Don't focus on that score for me, okay? Don't fret over that. It becomes, that number adjusts, and I'll show you that in a minute with looking at a particular school. The site EUI, okay, is actually the amount of energy that is at that particular school, okay? The next number over is the source, which encompasses everything. That means everything. That means outside, that means waste, it means the same data from power company, water company, oil, okay? It's all of that. So you have two different numbers. The big number that really we focus on, or what we'll focus on, is the site, because you want to know, everybody wants to know, when you go through this, if I've got one kid and I got this amount of kilowatts, what does that cost me? And that's the number that most people will go off of, okay? So, the next phase of this, and we're just going to click one school. When it pops up, it goes into another little chart, and it gives you summary, it gives you details, it gives you your energy, your water, waste materials, goals, okay? I'm going to show you the goals tab. And the reason I'm going to show you the goals tab is the goals tab is pretty, it's really nice to look at from this standpoint. When you look at the median property, that is across the United States. That is the schools that fit that realm. So if we've got 800 students in that school, and we've got 500 faculty members, and we've got 300 computers, and yada, 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 that's that median, okay, across the board. And the reason I like this...
And where are you getting that data from?
That data is all...
Provided by the vendor? Or?
That's all provided by the Department of Energy, basically. All this compiled into one. This data for me is where I sit there and I can analyze and look at where we're at. Are we below? Are we above? Are we equal? And it's really nice. And it just gives you an idea of, hey, you're doing okay. And one of the things that I'm going to give you at the very end of this is that we're doing very okay. We're doing okay. We really, truly are in all of this. We've done a lot of things in this county over the years that have helped us to maintain our infrastructure. There are things that we constantly tend to change. And all of that being positive, we're not sitting back and waiting for somebody to come and tell us something. We're not sitting back and saying, hey, look, this is all caving in. We're actually been proactive in all of it, and that is so crucial. And that's noticeable because of what we're now giving as firm data from here on out. So, that's Portfolio Manager in a nutshell, quickly, and diving through. What I'm going to give you now is basically what's next, right? Hey, you give me this, what's next? So, at the top of this, you have the things that have been implemented. in the county already over the few years. And the bottom is kind of where I want you to somewhat focus. As I said, portfolio management data is still, we're still going. So we're going to evaluate that data. We're going to continually look at it. I probably look at it, I'm not going to tell you every day because it does get monotonous, but pretty much at least one time a week, 2 times, depending. So we're going to look at that and constantly see where things are changing and going. The next thing is, and I put it on here, it's the utilization study of the portables. We have so many portables around the county. What are we doing with them? How do they fit? Do we need to get rid of? Do we need to keep utilizing? Do we need to move classes into? Do we need to take something out? It's just that whole thing. Because we actually have power to that. And that power is important. We have to figure out what we're doing with those units. The other part of this is the utilization study of almost all the schools and trying to figure out our space and where we're at. Are we doing what we should be? If you're at North Jefferson, do you really have enough room in a conference room that's boiling hot, all of that stuff. And you got to really look into that. The next part is, currently, after we did the Riddleberger thing, we're still going through the HVAC evaluations. We are really honing in on a lot of things. I've actually had a 3-hour meeting with them on Friday and said, listen, I really want you to define this as, we're 40 years old, and we've got 37 units that are 40 years old. That's Group A for me. What's Group B? What's Group C? And we went through and we actually calculated that. We're going to do a walkthrough of all those units sometime next week. Doing building walkthroughs, that's where it falls on me to when I walk in a building that I sit there and I go through a classroom or look at classrooms, where are we at with lights, where are we at with ceiling tile, where are we at with carpet, where are we at with tile, where are we at with windows, the list goes on and on. And it's just making sure that we identify those needs. And the last part is roof evaluations. And I just brought this just to show you, but we just did North Jefferson roof. Hopefully you got to see the video and all that good stuff. One of the things that I asked to have done was at South Jefferson and said, hey, could you go ahead and create a document for me to show me the roof? So they did. And they give us a whole portion of where things are at, and it's just a whole study, and it gives me cost estimates. It breaks it out so we can actually budget for things and all that good stuff. I basically have said, okay, well, these are the other 4 schools I want you to do right now. And so we're starting that. We actually have a solid, definite, hands-on piece of material that we can go to as opposed to looking at somebody and saying, hey, go look on the roof and see if you can find that hole. Okay? So all of that, when we have all of that done and all that in our way and there, we can say to ourselves, okay, what's the next steps? How are we going to make the next phases happen? And I think that's where, when we come back or when we look at all this, that we can actually sit there and say, look, you've got really hardcore data now. You got some real finite things. What do we want to go after? How do we want to make something better? What do we want to tackle? And we all know that we can't control the energy costs. We got no chance. But we can control what we do. And we can control that in that way to hopefully alleviate some of that. So, that's all I have.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions?
Oh, that's not all I have. I apologize. One last thing, if I can interrupt you real quick. Yeah. Okay. If you go to the Department of Energy's website, there is a thing called Financing Energy Upgrades, K through 12 school districts. In the bottom of this, you'll see a little PDF file. Whoa. It's touch sensitive, eh? Right there. I was going to print this out for everybody, but it's a 46-page document, and I knew that's not smart. So if you go through this is actually really cool. It's based from 2013. They do case studies. Washington, Colorado, Massachusetts, Michigan. I can't remember the other 2. Apologize. But just to read it. And then they talk about how to finance. And it was a really cool resource. And I just again, you can find it off the Department of Energy's website and see it, and it'll hopefully give you some more information besides me talking the whole time.
Let's make sure Beth Marone reads it. Ms. Ogden?
I was just going to say, you were talking about our goal, and it has a number of where we are. Are we, at this point, then setting, okay, we know that we're good, as you say right now, where do we want to go? Like, do we have an efficiency number? Do we have, our goal is to get every school at a certain percentage? Is it, how do we define what's good and what's not good in your estimation?
First off, I'll answer the beginning part, which is no, we have not set goals yet. We don't have enough data to do that yet.
Right.
We don't have enough of that to continually make sure that we're spot on. How are we going to do that? Once we have that consistent, so if we just take water usage, okay, and that water usage sits at, let's just say 600 gallons, and then all of a sudden we get like 10 spikes and we're at like 1,000 gallons, well, we're going to have to figure out what that spike is and why was that spike there. Once we figure that out, then we'll be able to determine. If we stay at 600 and we say, okay, well, we're at 600, why are we at 600 all the time? We haven't really changed anything. Then we can go, okay, well, let's change something there. Let's manipulate something. Let's go ahead and cut back a little because we don't need to, or we're not, we're not hurting anything. And we can set that goal of 550, right? And when you put that goal in there, if you reach that goal and it stays, and you continue to meet it, that drops your, if I'm answering you correctly, that drops everything. So that's the basic thing. Okay. But I don't want to make, and I said this to Dr. Gibson in an email today, I don't want to come out and be like, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it, because we're not there yet. And I don't want to mislead or screw up in a sense. Yeah. I'm going to screw up later, but not right now.
Fair enough.
I'm just thankful that we have something that we are utilizing to, again, get the performances at the optimum level, make sure that we're saving enough taxpayer dollars to be able to do those other projects as well that I know, that you've talked about as well, wanting to do. And also, I would find this to be helpful even in trying to get grant money and whatnot to change it, because now we do have data. We have very definitive data that we can use to apply for those kinds of things to get some of that funding.
And that is one of the things that this document talks about, is grants and internal cash. So.
Excellent.
Other questions? The HVAC evaluation, we had previously signed a contract with a company that's supposed to be going through an evaluation. Mm-hmm. Is that my recollection?
And they have. They've done a lot of their walkthroughs. They've actually come back and revisited a couple of places 3 times because they want to make sure that they're spot on with their serial numbers and tags and things.
And what is their objective?
Basically kind of what I presented to you just briefly, which is we need to know definitively how many units fall within certain years. And then from that, they already have whether or not a fan motor's bad, coils need to be replaced, that kind of thing. So
but they're not necessarily evaluating the energy efficiency. I mean, I guess they are in one sense because it's how much lifespan is left, but not a comparative of different sources of energy. What's the most energy efficient?
Have not gone that far yet. And only would go that far once we know that we need to replace that unit. If that unit is still functioning and working tremendously, we're not, I'm not going to change much.
Right.
But once we get there, yes, we would wholeheartedly.
And that also has the added benefit, if you will recall, this board renegotiated that contract so that we paid a flat fee for all of the materials and supply and replacement. And one of the things that we're keeping track of over the 3 years of that contract is based on the outside price of those parts. We know every part they've replaced, how much those are going to be, so that both us and for their sake, because they bid low to get our business, how much over or under they are over the course of the next 3 years during that contract, so that if it comes time for a renegotiation, we can all make good business decisions based on that as well.
And don't we also have a contract with one of our electricity providers to, if we manage the load on the system, we're able to you give us a quick summary of that?
Yes, sir, we certainly do. You are entirely correct in that. We've had that. How many years have we had that contract,
We've had it about
Mr.
5 or
Dingus?
6 years.
And our staff has done an outstanding job because it is they run a test load where they test the differential between us at our peak at the end of the day and then shut down. So we shut down at 4 o'clock. They test what our peak energy use is, and then at 5 they test it again, and they run the differential because that's when they're selling the electricity back to people coming home from work in D.C. and Maryland. And they pay us based on that differential, what that potential energy usage is. And our staff have done an excellent job of, on those days, making sure that we get the biggest differential possible based on our habits. And that's generated a pretty significant amount of funding for us.
Mr. Moran, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your efforts here.
Oh, and if you really do want login stuff, we can do that. I'm only going to give you show access. I'm not going to allow you to demonstrate doing that. But yeah, we can do that.
That's very wise of
Thank you for your honesty, Mr.
Okay. Next,
Ms. McGinnis.
we have Ms. McGinnis and the Renew Jefferson Task Force. Welcome. Nice to see you this evening.
Hi, my name is Kit McGinnis, and I have some handouts for you all. The first is just a summary of what it is that we're going to present tonight, and then there's a resolution that the City of Charleston passed a couple of months ago that we're going to show you all too. So I'm here representing the Renew Jefferson Task Force, which I am the lead of. And hold on, let me pull up. There it is. Let me get to this. Sorry, I haven't used a PC in a while. You know how to change? How do you change?
Yeah, it's upper
If you hit from
right-hand
beginning.
corner. Yeah, hit
okay.
slideshow. Let's do it.
No, way over, honey. Yeah, see,
From beginning, okay, got it. Okay. And then I just hit the little arrows, right? Okay. So I'm here with Mayor Scott Rogers of Charlestown, and he is also on the Renew Jefferson Task Force, and he'll tell you what we've done in Charlestown, which has been really exciting. And so just give you an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight, that one, localities. So anyway, I'm what I said is I'm the lead of the Jefferson County Renew Jefferson Task Force, and what we're trying to do is we're a group of local volunteers who are seeking to enhance the use of renewable energy in Jefferson County, specifically in Jefferson County. And like I said, we've had some success with Charlestown and thought it would be a great idea to approach the school board. And I really want to commend the superintendent and the maintenance, Keith Moran, for coming up with a really great way to baseline energy use in the county and a vision towards energy efficiency. And what I'd like to do is kind of set that vision a little bit further and see, how we can look at using renewable energy in the county as well. And so what I'm hoping is that the Jefferson County Board of Education and the school system can move forward on a strategy to reduce energy and waste, save money, reduce our school system's impact on the environment, and boost opportunities for vocational and higher education opportunities in the clean technology sector. So in terms of what I'm presenting tonight and our asks or our requests for action would be that there could be a board resolution, and I'll go into more detail in a few minutes, expand the task force that's already the Energy Star task force to incorporate the vision of renewable energy, consider becoming part of the West Virginia Sustainable Schools program, consider making any new construction of schools, make those green schools, looking at retrofits of current buildings, particularly looking at the K through 12 programs that were listed by Keith Moran. Those could fund some of that as well, and then look at vocational and educational opportunities. And I have some actions and benefits in other West Virginia counties, and then a video of what is happening in Kentucky, which is a similar state to us in terms of where our energy comes from, generally coal, and the legislative bodies making decisions about that. So it can be really inspiring, I think, for what's possible here in Jefferson County. So I want to hand it over to Mayor Rogers so he can say what happened in Charlestown and kind of take the lead. And he's taking the lead in the county on what's possible.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
It's great to have you. Do you want to take a minute and introduce the Assistant Mayor?
Well, everyone, this is the Assistant Mayor, William Rogers, right here. So,
Mr. Rogers.
He is a student at South Jefferson Elementary, and he absolutely loves it. So, as many of you know, he follows me to various meetings and helps me. But I'd like to thank you, everyone, tonight for allowing me to speak. On December 4th of last year, the Charlestown City Council passed Resolution 2017-020, a resolution to support renewable energy. This resolution was the result of months of efforts by community stakeholders and members of the City Council. I'm proud to say the vote was unanimous. This resolution, the first in West Virginia, positions our city as a leader in efforts to pivot away from fossil fuels and move towards sustainable green technologies. The City of Charlestown recognizes that protecting our natural resources, promoting conservation, and improving the environment is fundamentally important to quality of life and essential to maintaining a vibrant economy. The fact is, cities and organizations such as ours play a key role in reducing carbon emissions, since they account for roughly 75% of global CO2 emissions. It is becoming easier for cities to clean their air as renewable energy continues to become more affordable. Once extremely costly, wind and solar will become the cheapest source of electricity globally by 2013, according to Bloomberg New Energy Finance. Our city staff has been instructed to consider all municipal decisions in light of whether they will bring the city and its residents, businesses, and institutions closer to 100% renewable energy and ensure that those benefits are spread throughout the community. Further, our resolution promotes civic engagement that gives our youth a seat at the table in shaping the scope and manifestation of renewable energy efforts. It authorizes the mayor to seek community partners, and I want to work with you on sustainable energy projects that will leave us with a healthier, more efficient, and environmentally sound community. I hope you, as a board, will adopt a similar resolution to Charlestown's that commits Jefferson County schools to sustainable solutions that reduce the environmental impact of school operations and prepares our students for opportunities in the ever-growing clean energy and environmental technology fields. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So I'm really psyched about what Charlestown's doing, and hope that you guys see the way forward to being able to do this as well. So as you see, the City Council unanimously adopted this, even though there's a broad range of political backgrounds. They all saw the benefit of doing this in the city. So I'm going to go into details about the request for action. The first is potentially a board resolution, where you all could adopt a resolution declaring Jefferson Schools' intent to move forward with actions to save energy, save school and taxpayer resources, reduce schools' environmental impact, and position Jefferson County students for vocations and post-secondary education opportunities in the burgeoning clean energy and environmental technology fields. And you have a copy of the Charlestown resolution, and I also forwarded the resolution to the superintendent so that you all could look at it and find out, ways that you could configure it to fit what the school board would want to do. And then potentially expanding I believe there's an Energy Star task force already. There's the potential maybe for expanding its vision to include renewable energy. And members of the task force that are the Renew Jefferson Task Force could potentially be added to it. We could add youth, could add energy and technology experts in the community, and other supportive stakeholders. I just wanted to mention Matt Ward of Sustainable Strategies in DC. He's a local resident and has a lot of kids in the school system. And then Dan Conant, who is the CEO of Solar Hauler, which is based in Shepherdstown. Were going to be here to help with the presentation, but they were called away on business this weekend, so weren't able to be here, and we wanted to really take advantage of this. So I said, we'll do it anyway, but I want to bring them into supportive stakeholders that could really provide a lot of expertise to this effort. And then there's a West Virginia Sustainable Schools program, and the school board could explore becoming part of that. And it's an initiative sponsored by the West Virginia Department of Education and associated with Green Ribbon school programs run by the U.S. Department of Education. And from what I've seen from it, there's not necessarily funding, but there's a lot of recognition and partnership opportunities. And so I feel like it could expand different partner opportunities that the school system could have that would expand into the renewable energy field, and that could provide some exciting opportunities. Like I said before, we could make any new school construction green, where you could adopt a policy and practical commitments to ensure that future schools and other facilities will be designed and built to be green and sustainable in coordination with the West Virginia School Building Authority and Jefferson County stakeholders. These future buildings can use ambitious yet practical and cost-effective standards that provide the best value and performance for the school system and its people. So it's not saying we have to build these schools that are super expensive because we're incorporating renewable energy. It's looking at how can we make this a cost-effective and positive for the environment direction for the school system. And then retrofits of existing facilities, which sounds like you guys are already looking at with this baseline with the performance thingy, the performance performance thing you guys are coming up with to create the baseline, which is awesome. And so this is I'm not sure if you guys are already doing this, but it sounds like they're in creating the performance. It was you, Stoltz? Schultz. But like Berkeley County is working with an energy service company and consultants on energy and water performance contracts for retrofits of school facilities so that they can be more energy efficient and lower cost as allowed under the West Virginia Code. And then there can also be an exploration of the potential for public-private partnership for rooftop leases for the deployment of solar panels to provide energy and cost savings and tech-based educational opportunities to the schools. And I'm going to give I'm going to give an example later about what's happening in Parkersburg, West Virginia, which is doing exactly that. Let's see, oops, wrong button. And then there's the vocational and educational opportunities. I know that there's already partnerships with Shepherd and APUS and Blue Ridge Community and Technical College, but there could be expanded opportunities in those areas that, students who are looking for vocational opportunities. There's a growing industry especially in surrounding states in Virginia and Maryland, but it's coming to West Virginia in terms of those types of work, those types of jobs. And then there's a local organization, he's local here, Dan Conant with Solar Holler has partnered with the Coalfield Development Corporation, which is in central West Virginia. But what they're doing is something called We Wire Appalachia, where they're looking at mining the sun, and they're training displaced coal miners on how to install solar panels and geothermal, and they're mainly doing solar panels, but they have this vast array of training programs that they're doing in one of the poorest and most difficult areas in the state. And the mayor, when they won a grant of $3 million to invest in Rewire Appalachia and some other programs, he said we went from worst to first. And it's this really an inspiring story, and I really think that that's something that we could look at doing here in the Eastern Panhandle in Jefferson County. So what I wanted to say is we're not alone. Like Berkeley County, I know, has gotten a lot of press lately, and when I was talking with the superintendent, she said, well, they were doing zero, and then they went to, some retrofits, and so they've gotten this really big boost. But I still feel like there's a lot of opportunity in Jefferson County to be able to do that, and using Berkeley County as a potential model. There's also in Wyoming County, Frank Blackwell, he was the superintendent there? So he was the superintendent, and he implemented a lot of retrofits and energy efficiency and geothermal in Wyoming County, which is an impoverished county in West Virginia. And he was able to save enough money in the county to underwrite the failing retirement system in that county. And now he's moved to be the head of the School Building Authority. So he's very much in support of this kind of vision that we're looking for. And then the picture here is from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and this is Parkersburg South High School, and there's a man named Chip Pickering there, and he's really pushing the envelope on what are called they're solar leases, basically, where you lease your rooftops, and so they were able to install a solar system on their gymnasium at no cost. and it's going to supply about 50% of the gymnasium's power needs through this power purchase agreement. And it was designed by students who are participating in the local community college program. And the students worked a year on developing the economic impacts, laying out panels on the roof around other existing features, connecting the circuiting into the inverters, and finally witnessing the completed installation. That's in West Virginia, and that's a really exciting possibility that could happen here as well. And I went and toured the Blue Ridge Tech and Community College. It's a mouthful, and they have a solar installation and geothermal facility and wind power, and they're wanting students to come in and go through that program. So I think that these are partnership opportunities that I think could be really exciting and support this vision of really bringing the Jefferson County schools to more renewable energy use and potentially 100% renewable. And so we can do this, and I want to play a video from Kentucky. It's just a couple of minutes, and it's I found really inspiring, so hopefully it'll play. How does the video, does the sound come anywhere? Do we know where the sound goes? And it's not playing there?
When they switched over to Keith's, they may have pulled her video down. So
I'm not sure. Sorry about that. It's really worth it, though, so just hold your attention, because it's a really good one. And what I love so much about this video is that it's the kids talking about the program in their school. And for me to see kids being incorporated and understanding the vision of moving toward a different energy future, especially in such a coal-dependent state like Kentucky and like West Virginia, is really exciting. Oh, okay.
You got it. First, he's going to go
We
to
need
push
sound.
He'll know the first button. He gets
Okay. Well, first of all, we have to plug the sound.
Oh, plug sound in.
I'll be right back.
I hear it. I'm going to hit play and to see if it comes up.
Give me a second.
With a global agreement now in place.
So we can just watch it from here.
Action is now.
Sound is the video. One down, one to go. Stand by. Alright. We'll bring this back.
You love it or hate it. Or love it and hate it.
Yeah.
You should have.
Once again. Try Windows P. Windows P. Oops. Window? Okay. Which one is it? Oh, okay. There. I don't know why it doesn't stay. There you go. That's it. Keep. Right? Yep. I don't know why I didn't keep it, but $5. Okay. Full screen.
Yay!
Thank you.
Around the world, communities are embracing clean and healthy solutions to fight the climate crisis. With a global agreement now in place, the time for action is now.
conductor is? Lauren?
Something that allows electricity to flow easily.
Right, it allows the electricity to flow through the wires easily.
Richardsville Elementary School is the first net zero school in the nation. A net zero school is one that basically consumes less energy than it produces.
These solar panels that you're walking on are called thin film. They actually adhere to the roof with Velcro. These panels each generate electricity, and then they're collected along these connectors, and those feed directly into the building, and that's where they're converted into electricity that we can be used to put back on the grid.
Instead of us writing a check to the energy company each month, the energy company writes us a check at the end of the year in the amount of approximately $35,000.
Some of the ideas that we incorporated here were big ideas to start with: geothermal energy, insulated concrete forms for the structure of the building. We also knew that in order to reduce energy to the amounts that we were talking about, the commercial kitchen that every school has had to be dramatically redesigned.
This is our kitchen. My name is Alicia, and I am the energy team leader. Energy team does different activities that helps kids get motivated into saving energy and hopefully doing it the same at home. If you see over here, it's kind of like a giant microwave.
It takes away the frying part so we don't have any grease in our food.
So the first thing we did was get rid of tilting skillets and get rid of deep fryers, because that is what was causing a lot of energy to be spent in the kitchen. We were also helping create a lot more healthier lunches for the kids. Our challenge was to see if we couldn't reduce energy consumption to really about 75% below the average school. We were told that it was impossible to achieve. And now we have had people from all over the world come to see this building.
We've had people from India, we've had people from France, we've had people from all over the United States come to this rural community to see. So what we have created is a diamond in the rough.
This is a kind of an example of how our solar panels work.
Our students take a lead in helping our teachers understand how we can implement energy conservation in the curriculum.
First it goes to the heat pump, then the pump.
We have projects that they work on throughout the year. They also take it home to their families, and that's a very important aspect of what we do here.
Richardsville Elementary School is proof that you can build a net zero school and make it work. Every dollar that we don't have to pay the utility company is a dollar that we can give back to our kids and our teachers and our staff. I think every school district should definitely entertain the idea of building a net zero school.
So from this video, you see.
We can make climate action.
So this is possible. I mean, if it's possible in Bowling Green, Kentucky, it can be possible in Jefferson County, West Virginia. It's very similar political climate, and it's really exciting. I mean, that's happening, and there's now hundreds of schools across the country who are doing the same thing. And I really feel like I have a son in high school here, and I'm doing this as a volunteer, but to me, it's like I have to do it because it's our kids' future. What are we going to do about it? What am I going to say that I did about it? In terms of where my energy comes from, how my impact on the environment is, and what it is that I'm teaching my children. I think it's really important, and I really hope that you can look at this and incorporate this into the policies and the decision making that you make for the school. And I really appreciate your time and the efforts that you've already made. And let's set the vision even further and really achieve something big. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kit. Questions, colleagues?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. At my house, we have solar and geothermal, and so I am totally sold on the whole project. So I think it's a really, really good way to go.
Yay! Yeah, thank you.
Kit, and Well, first of all, thank you and the mayor for coming and giving us this presentation. It gives us a lot to think about, particularly as we look at trying to manage both our facilities and our finances, and also looking to what our future building needs are. When you say green, does that roughly equate to the different LEED standards, or is there a different definition for green?
I think the way that I saw it defined on the sustainable schools was just efforts moving in the direction of energy use, reducing waste. I mean, we talked on the phone about the size of the lawns that get mowed.
Right.
And could some of those be converted into like warm season grass and wildflower meadows, which would be pollinator fields, and you would reduce the size of the lawns that you would be mowing, so that would reduce the carbon emissions from the lawn mowing going on, and also the cost of using the fuel to mow the lawn. Or buses. As you buy new buses, converting those to biofuels or ones that are more fuel efficient. So I think that in terms of like the school in Bowling Green, Kentucky, it's a net zero school. So they're looking at, are they producing all of the energy, or in terms of not using all of the energy that they need for their school? And I think that could be a target that could be looked at. So in terms of green, that's kind of, I don't want to greenwash anything, but I think any effort, especially like with the energy efficiency efforts that you're doing, those are steps in the right direction for our children's future. And I just challenge you to say, what can we do beyond that? In terms of really big vision, and speak that story of that vision of what's possible, because I think it's really exciting, and the jobs that are created in the country are coming from renewable energy despite what's happening right now. The trajectory is for the future, and that's where we're headed. And if West Virginia won't go that route, Jefferson County can at least step into that river and ride that wave toward the future.
Great. I'm glad you mentioned the mowing. It's a conversation that not only in this context, but even independently, that I wish we would have. I see several of, we have some beautiful, well manicured fields around some of our schools that I think we could be thinking about doing something different with them and saving mowing costs as well as energy.
Well, and also through the USDA, there's funding to offset the cost of converting to warm season grass and wildflower meadows. And so you put in native grasses and native flowers, which then become the pollinator habitat, and you get the funding. I think it's a 25 to 50% cost match and so I've done that with other schools. And it's a possibility. So yeah, there's funding opportunities kind of all over, and Matt Ward is kind of a genius at that kind of thing, and would really like to pull him in to looking at ways that you can start mitigating some of the costs to making some of this happen.
Good. Well, thanks again for bringing us this information. Again, just speaking for me, I too will hope that we will consider joining the city in considering a resolution like this.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Superintendent?
Thank you very much for coming. The only comments that I have are a thank you to the numerous Jefferson County Schools retirees and students and parents who came out and joined our faculty, professional, and service staff on Friday for what was a very positive, well-orchestrated, professional show of dedication to our staff and, quite frankly, dedication to our kids and families, and the work with which our staff put Jefferson families first. And it was actually just a tremendous experience, and it was wonderful to see generations of Jefferson County Schools employees who were marching with people who they had taught themselves, and the students of students of students who were here to support us. And so thank you very much to that for the staff and the community and the retirees who came out and supported Jefferson County Schools.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 22nd board meeting. A second?
Second.
Any questions, clarifications on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Citizens' comments. We have some members of the community have signed up for citizens' comments tonight, which we always welcome. We invite you when we call your name to go to the podium if you're able, and we do ask you to limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Donna Joy, and we take them in the order that I think they signed in. Ms. Joy.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the January 15th meeting, board meeting, and the superintendent asked the board to remove the policy regarding years of experience based on the number of years teaching. Do you remember that policy, that issue? So I wanted to ask the board to consider the impact that removing that policy would have on teachers. So when teachers start out deciding which school system they want to work for, they look at not just salary, they look at benefits, the neighborhood, the environment. So if you think you're going to become a teacher for a few years and then maybe you want to get into curriculum and instruction. So you look at the school system that offers the added benefit of hiring from within. So Berkeley County has that policy of hiring from within. So say you go to school, you want to focus on curriculum and instruction for your master's degree. You take out the school loans, you teach for 15 or 20 years, thinking that you're going to get this job in curriculum and instruction. You put in all the years. And this policy in place protects teachers. It gives them this added bonus that it's a little bit of security, it's hope that they can move forward in their profession, because there's not a lot of upward mobility as a teacher unless you want to be an administrator. So that's one concern, that it removes the hope. It is a disincentive. The other thing, I have a list of problems with this, the way that it's stated. I mean, it could be renegotiated, but as presented to the board, my concerns. So somebody with 15 or 20 years experience having a dog grooming business can come in, and because they had a business, they can come in and get 15 or 20 years experience, where the teacher that was here for 15 or 20 years, they're competing with this person. This person doesn't necessarily have the same experience in education. So that's another disincentive. We're lowering the standards. So you want people in the school system that are familiar with schools. So another problem with it is you have people that are retired. Somebody that's retired from the military or any other company. They come with benefits from their old position. They come in and they're competing with a teacher. They get the job. They already have benefits. Meanwhile, the teacher is competing for a little bit of PEIA or a little bit of a pay increase.
Ms. Joy, we would ask you to wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I would ask, I have a whole list of problems with
And
this.
we'd be, if you have them written, we'd be happy if you...
I'll email it to you, because
Thank
this
you.
is my handwriting, which
Okay.
is hard to read. So I'd just like you to think about this and take these things into consideration. Let the public know, because it wasn't presented this way to the public. It was only presented the benefits. You didn't hear the drawbacks and how it will affect teachers, and it also affects the custodians as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Atkinson and Ms. Terbergen.
I
Welcome.
have to go home.
She's staging, ready to run out of the building.
I don't want to leave, but I have to go. Okay, let me get my composure back.
You're a good mama.
That's right.
Your
That's
mama
right.
first.
It's bedtime.
Sorry to keep you.
Okay. Good evening. We, Jessica and I, are standing before you tonight to thank you for your efforts in supporting the teachers and service personnel here in the county. Your help with the walk-in that we were able to pull off quite well on Friday with very minimal planning, especially with the snow days. I think countywide it went off. It was a huge success, and I think that we think that it helped draw attention to the problems that we're facing with the legislature right now. Just today, another payroll bill failed. So we want to thank you for considering the resolution that you are considering tonight, and we do hope that you do pass that resolution to support us, because it is becoming a big struggle for us to care for other people's children when we're finding it difficult to care for our own families and support and provide for them.
And we really appreciate the opportunity to have transportation to Charleston this weekend, because
it's a long drive.
Linnea and I
We just did it yesterday.
4-hour drive, almost all the way there on a
And back.
Sunday. And yeah, providing that I think will help. We're still working on numbers from our membership, but I think that will be a huge incentive to get people to Charleston. So.
Oh, shoot. I almost forgot when I put my stuff outside. I have invitations for you. For the rally on Saturday, because I think you will be there anyway. So you can get your t-shirt. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for your efforts and the communication that we've had and keeping us apprised of concerns. And you are the best asset this county and our students have, and we want to stand with you all the way. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Tabb.
Good evening, David Tabb, Jefferson County resident. My family was here before it was Jefferson County, so keep that in mind. We have donated a lot. I've been a taxpayer since I was 5 years old. I've been on the tax books. It's really important. And don't get me wrong, these teachers need more money. It's great that you're putting the program together to take the structure of the schools and to put it into one place so you can keep track of it. That's great. But we've had this problem for years with the teachers. It's been said over and over and over again. I have challenged this board, the county commission, the county, the state, and the federal government on that we had an excess levy. And all I asked was to meet before you people, and you wouldn't do it. And I challenged it in the courts and never had a day in court. I predicted that $2.3 million in October of 2015 was going to be overcharged to the taxpayer. If it went to the right place and to the right people, I have no problem with that. But with my FOIAs, I have gotten documentation that shows that through the excess levy, which was supposed to be 19.1 million, actually somehow collected 35.8 million. Somehow. But only 2.3 was collected over the 19.1, which was 21.5 million. But yet you spent $35.8 million out of that program. I believe, don't know yet, still working with the audit or working with the department, accounting department, to try to find out where this money went. I think it went in the wrong place. It should have gone to the teachers. That's what it was meant for. That's what it was proponed for. But I don't think it got there. Why did this board allow a ballot to go on before the people that says that if anything unconstitutional was asked for, oh yeah, it's right here, first line, unconstitutional, that was ever decided on this money that was collected, they got to keep it and do whatever they want.
30 seconds, Mr. Tabb.
Okay. Again, your own Perry book, on each page, it says unaudited. So you paid for an unaudited program, $122 million, and that does not include any of the federal money. I do appreciate your time. Our teachers need attention. They need the funding, and the taxpayer also needs to be made sure that all money is spent wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tabb. I appreciate your time. Ms. Roper.
I got my own timer. All right, good evening. I'm here to ask the board to reinstate 2 programs that benefit culturally diverse students and families here in Jefferson County. First is the culturally diverse account of $10,000, which was frozen 9 months ago. Without access to these private funds, the culturally diverse students have not been able to participate in traditional programs such as college tour, mock interviews, and local Black History programs. Second, will you reinstate the pre-kindergarten program at Ranson Elementary School? You moved the program out of Ranson this year. The removal of the pre-K program out of the only walking school in the county may be the reason that our enrollment is down. I'm not sure about that, but I do know that early intervention at a Title I school like Ranson Elementary is vital to continuity to that neighborhood and gives them a head start.
Thank you, Ms. Roper. That concludes citizens' comments. And again, we appreciate you taking the time to come address the board. Moving on, the consent agenda.
Yes, sir. I have one requested addendum to the consent agenda. We received a notice from the athletic director, Mr. J. Kirby, at Jefferson High School requesting permission for Coach Jack Phillips and Coach Jason White to have permission to drive our state wrestling qualifiers to the state wrestling tournament in Huntington, West Virginia. He provided us a notice that stated they were not notified until this past weekend regional tournament that they had qualifiers for the state tournament and therefore didn't get their request in time to get posted. But we would ask that the board consider their request so that those wrestlers can participate.
Okay. Any other changes or modifications?
No, sir.
Okay. We have a motion to consider the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
We are not in the same place with Washington students. are we?
No, sir, we are not. And I would convey that we, to your point, we ask all of the coaching staff to assume that they will be successful and to ask us for permission in advance. And then if they don't make the state tournament, they don't qualify, there's nothing lost. And that did not occur.
But we
But we don't
understand
punish
that-
students for the
Absolutely.
mistakes of adults, so
Yeah.
we will address those. So, thank you.
Okay. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Unfinished business. We have the Chapter 8 Student Policy Manual.
Remember last time?
Mr. Blanc, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. So yeah, I think we're coming to the conclusion on Chapter 8 that presented to the board last time. We had some questions about, mostly in the attendance area, about the homeless and how that was worded. You have a copy at your desk there, starting with page 5, that shows those changes. I'm going to copy the whole document, but worked closely with Dr. Hoff. She was here, but she had her input and certainly her stamp of approval. You can see the highlighted changes are mostly added things about the McKinty-Vento Homeless Act and added that to the policy. The policy was originally a 149-page document, so we trimmed it down to 109, so it's still pretty lengthy. But one of our goals was to try to consolidate some of the things and not be repeating ourselves and duplicating what's in state code already. But asking the board to recommend approval. We didn't receive any additional comments. This was put out back on review 4 weeks ago, I believe it was.
Okay, we have a motion to consider, or a motion to approve Chapter 8, revised Chapter 8.
So moved.
Thank you. Questions? We've had this out for a considerable amount of time.
We
That's
did.
my recollection.
We
right?
first put it out before Christmas,
Yeah.
and then we put it back.
Appreciate, I know we've had a lot of comments and a lot of reiteration based on those comments, right?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Blanc.
Thank you
It
very
was good work. Appreciate everyone's patience and getting input. Unfinished business, approval of Chapter 6 regarding vacation policy for 261-day employees.
Yes, sir. We had originally brought this back in into December, beginning of January, and we had put it out for 2 weeks and then continued it for 2 additional weeks. We did not receive any public comment during that time. However, after the public comment period ended, I did get a suggestion from one of our employees in the school board office, giving us some suggestions for how we could clarify for staff. It would seem, particularly based on public comment, while no one approached us for clarification on it, there appear to be some folks who have a level of misunderstanding about it or confusion about it and who it applies to. 261 staff, the vast majority, over 2/3 of whom are service personnel, and the idea was to be able to provide them, as we continue to struggle to get staff in, to be able to provide them with a benefit. It had nothing to do with pay, and the policy limits them from surpassing people who would come in from the outside, from surpassing people who had stayed within the system and accrued their time. However, most of that was in our standard operating procedures that we were writing up the SOP for how to implement, and not the policy. And we are trying to keep our policies very short and clear, and then write up everything into our SOPs. And Of course, we are still building trust with some of our staff, so we are not under any time constraint to approve this, and so I would, given that there still appears to be some misunderstanding about it despite having no public comment, we can pull it down and we will work on some more clarity in the policy and not just the standard operating procedure that clarifies for service and professional staff the differences between internal staff who've stayed here and their career, and our ability to be able to recruit external staff who, as we had noted before, are at a significant disadvantage if they've never worked for a public school system. We could recruit Bill Gates in to run our IT department, and he would start off with no vacation. So, which seems ludicrous at a time when we're trying to recruit.
Right, when you're trying to recruit, that's kind of an impediment.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is. But as always, we make every attempt to make sure that everyone on our staff understands clearly, and for some folks who need clarity and repetition, we will do our best to provide that.
Do you want to take any time now to discuss or to provide that clarity, or what's your how do you intend to, if we don't, so you're recommending that we pull this item?
Yes, sir, and that I then come back with a policy that is a bit more robust and includes perhaps some things that normally we would put in our standard operating procedures, or present it in conjunction with the standard operating procedures so that folks see how that would play out in their real lives, so that we can give folks some more clarity. I think as sometimes happens when you make changes, they can either be hope-based or fear-based, and people read into them their either best hopes for what could happen or their worst fears for what could happen. And if it takes some additional information for us to build that trust, then we'll present both the policy and an SOP to go. Board doesn't approve SOPs, but if we present the SOP at the same time, that might assist some people with a level of understanding. And since we're not under any time constraints, we certainly have the time to do that. We simply wanted to have something in place as we run into
Well,
recruiting season.
you need to have something for recruiting season.
Yes, sir. So we're good for bringing this back in late February, and then voting in March. We're still in that time frame.
So then you would recommend an action to suspend consideration of this item?
Yes, sir. Certainly I would.
Okay.
I'll just pull it.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Not all in favor of suspending the consideration of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. New business. Should we, I know there are people who probably need, I was just wondering if we ought to.
Move the resolution first? Yes, sir.
Because I know we have people that
waiting for that.
Need to get home.
Yes, sir, to their families.
Not that we welcome folks to stay for particularly discussion of superintendent evaluation, but if there's no objections, I would recommend we start with item B. Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
You will.
So,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, now it's taken me a minute to move
Pull it
to
up.
it, but please.
Yes, sir. As the board noted, the board had, when the discussion had begun regarding pay raises and PEIA, the board had been quite vocal early on in their support for our staff, and this being a continuation of the legislative
Right.
remedies that this board sought for several years, and we had drafted a resolution which subsequently had been sent out to several other counties who have contacted me and said, hey, we heard you I got an email forward that said you guys were considering this resolution. It's great. Do you mind if we vote on it in our county? And I am actually quite pleased and proud of this board that several other counties have used this as a basis for resolutions in their own jurisdictions, because they appreciated the language.
So I'm sure we all have much to say on this. Can we get a motion to approve the resolution to support teacher and service personnel pay raises and to fully fund the PEIA?
Second.
In a second. Great. I would just thank my fellow board members for early on, several weeks ago, when this issue was first being discussed. All of you have indicated to me privately as well as collectively that you wanted to be heard on this issue and to support teachers and service personnel. And we realized with the board trip coming up at the end of this week to the state capitol that we thought we wanted to take action as soon as possible and to personally deliver. So appreciate everyone's quick consideration and help in drafting this. Comments?
Just keep the pressure on.
Yeah. Do we, let's see, I want to make sure that all of our teachers and service personnel have a copy of this or have seen it.
We sent it out originally after the board had drafted various pieces of it and things that they wanted in it, and I put all of your suggestions together and sent it back out to you. You were copied on and saw a update that went out to all JCS employees that had this in the body of the communication. So all of our staff have seen it.
Okay. I guess I would just maybe read two sections of the resolution that I think underscore this board's views on this issue. Whereas our community recognizes and supports the staff of Jefferson County Schools, and I would emphasize our community, which is through the levy and other means have shown tremendous support for the schools and for our teachers in educating the children of this community. And whereas the Jefferson County Board of Education recognizes that our teaching and service staff deserve a competitive wage and the assurance of a functioning, reasonably priced healthcare system for themselves and their families. And I might add, they don't currently have that. So, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you again for all of you individually adding to this effort, and as Ms. Ogden said, let's keep the pressure on. Thank you. And thank you, teachers and service personnel. And we'll make sure we take this to a nice with several copies with us.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Item A, superintendent evaluation, progress report.
You gonna do C first?
Yeah, what would you like to do?
Whatever.
Absolutely.
I'm here for the duration.
Ms. Fitzwater over there? Absolutely.
Okay. Just say I'm here. Evening.
Good evening.
I come before you tonight to ask a request for a special education aide one-on-one for 2 months as a long-term sub for Wright Denny. I have uploaded the documentation and that we have considered, and since we are at that timeline, we are getting to the 30 days, we needed to bring it to you to let us know that we still need a little bit more data, and we're working closely with this family, and they've asked us also to give it a little bit more time.
So, does that mean we're not then you're not asking to approve this?
I am asking for approval for the 2-month long-term sub.
I see.
We have already used an extra within our time limits, and as soon as we get to near the end of that time limit of 30 days, I need to come to you and tell you what's going on with this position.
Okay.
And before you ask for a motion, I request that I recuse myself from this because I actually know the student. So.
Absolutely. If no objections, we'll recognize that Ms. Skinner is recusing herself from consideration of this item. So we need a motion for approval of the long-term substitute for 2 months ending April 16th.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoops, hold on here just a second. How do I bring myself back? I hit the wrong button, but that's okay. We're going to continue now to item A, superintendent evaluation. We are, and I know you can fill in the details, but we are, you're in the last year of a 3-year contract.
Yes.
And given that you're in the last year, the contract is through the end of June.
June 30th, yes, sir.
And normally the evaluation process for the annual evaluation process is set by state law for late summer. Or wait a minute, June. But because we're in the last year of a contract, the period is required under state policy or law to be moved up.
Yes, sir. It has to be completed by March 1st in the last year of a superintendent's contract. Okay. Yes, sir.
So that's why we are having to have, or eager to have this conversation now.
Yes, sir.
Versus the normal timeline, it comes at a little later period in the year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. And you will recall that the board has a requirement to set goals for me by September 15th of each year, which this board did in public meeting last year. And I'm here to give you an update on those 4 goals and to give you information. The first of those was a request for implementation of a new idea product. Basically, the board wanted to leverage our footprint in the community in terms of technology to garner ideas for progress and improvement for Jefferson County Schools as part of our community engagement effort. That has been completed. It was a significantly more difficult process than it probably needed to be. We currently have separate vendors and separate platforms for our website, for our app, for our social media, for our calling messenger program. And one of the things that has come out of this process, like many things, we go to fix one thing and we realize that we need to fix 4 or 5 other things behind it, was taking all of those contracts and looking to unify them under one contract so that we would have a stable, consistent multimedia platform out to our teachers and our families. There's been a tremendous amount of progress since the last time we signed a contract for each one of those separate pieces of the puzzle, and oftentimes it's taking individual manpower to update each one of them rather than publishing once and it going to all of the different platforms consistently across all of them. So that's been a huge positive. We are actually, as of today, up to 4 submitted great ideas, one of which was candygrams on Valentine's Day. But several of them are community ideas, full-time nurses in schools. Each one of those ideas we then take back to the leadership team, and we draw up sort of an implementation plan. Is this even possible? How much would it cost? What would it take to do this? And the individuals who submit their great idea say whether or not they would be willing to serve on a committee or help us implement that. Once we have those, we have an interface where people will be able to click and see what ideas have been submitted and what we did about them, so that you can see what kind of progress we're making. Because oftentimes people think alike, and if there are barriers to those things, they need to know what they are. The second goal that you had was a student achievement goal, the development of a pacing guide with support materials for K2 to support increased reading on grade level by grade 3. Much as we did with our mathematics, the idea for us was for us not to bring in someone from the outside and pay them to write curriculum or write pacing guides and then tell us how to do it. We've basically invested the time and money in our own staff. We've had all of our elementary principals attend training in balanced literacy. Each one of the schools selected their faculty member representative for elementary language arts. All of them attended the same training, and we are paying them, and they are going through the process of creating a pacing guide for us in conjunction with our technology department, and creating both the pacing guide for each one of the elements of the curriculum and when they need to be introduced, but also providing support materials within that document for when you go to introduce this. Here are some ideas and some support materials that you can use. It doesn't require teachers to use them, but gives them some aids for moving through that process. There were several attachments online that showed both our timeline for completion of that, the participation in the committee, some of the support materials, and for folks who are not necessarily well versed in balanced literacy, what that entails and all of the elements of balanced literacy for our staff. And we are on pace to complete that guide prior to the June 30th timeline. Realignment of the staff development program to increase time and quality of content. The first and foremost success of that was the realignment of our calendar to actually provide staff development time. So we tripled the amount of staff development time from 1 day to 3 days. We've actually implemented 2 of those thus far. The final third one comes this Friday. We've had discussion with our principals, with our instructional and administrative staff here at the school board office, and feedback from teachers on the content of the staff development. We are continuing to wrestle with the best way to find a balance between being consistent and having certain initiatives that are developed system-wide and driven through the entire system and monitored at the same rates, and giving schools a certain degree of freedom to pursue things in their own school that are important to them based on where they're at. This year we had landed at, we will have 1 district level staff development day that we will develop and drive. That was, and as Ms. Roper very clearly pointed out earlier today, that was an enormous strain on our central office staff for, 1 person to create staff development for all of our high schools. That's a pretty diverse group. And then the next 2, it's okay. If you could stay awake for this portion, it would invigorate me, give me some confidence. No, you're good, dear. And then the next 2 days were school level staff development, where they could sort of take those district level things and then work through them at the school level based on where they were at in the implementation process. So we don't have the first full year of this staff development in behind us, but as we're getting feedback from it, we are looking at revising that program and making it more robust. We still don't have enough good options in particular, and we've had this discussion with the personnel reps, and Ms. Young's been very helpful in this. We do not have nearly robust enough a staff development program for our service personnel. We talked about development of, we have an exemplary leadership program for individuals who want to be building administrators. We don't have one for service personnel who want to become administrators, who want to supervise other service personnel, and that's something that we would like to get in place in the coming year. And finally, the fourth is planning and executing a public information campaign regarding the county growth rate and soliciting input for short and long range building plans. As the board is well aware, and as we've continued to convey to the media, we've had an interesting level of growth here in Jefferson. This summer we were looking at, last fall we were looking at, spring when we were looking at redistricting, in the summer when we implemented, our 5-year average was running at, gaining 71 pupils a year. And this year we had a downturn. We actually had 29 students less this year than we had the year before, which brought down our 5-year average. However, we also saw a significant uptick in the number and percentage of homeschool students. We've had lots of discussion about some of the reasons behind that, some of the flexibility that our parents and our community members have, that we are very much soliciting the state legislature to give us, to be able to meet those homeschool families' needs and meet them where they're at. Now that we have completed the purchase of property for growth, the next step of this is to have a series of community conversations about what that growth looks like. Everything from energy efficient buildings to whether or not we include STEM programs. Do we have regional gifted magnets? Do we have flexible seating? Do we have, it's wide open. Basically, these schools of the future are meant to meet our community's needs, and the idea is that this spring we'll have a series of informational meetings for parents where we'll present information on things like this net zero school and other, Campus 2025, some of the innovative research about what modern educational programs look like, their flexibility, their ability to grow with the needs of the county, their ability to offer teachers some good amplification of their skills, because we've certainly seen we have fewer and fewer teachers meeting the needs of more and more kids, and how do we design programs and purchase technology and configure buildings that let that work. So the idea is that we'd have a series of forums, and you can see some of the projected dates and locations in here, which once we confirm all of those, I know, for example, that the one at Wright Denny, we've already had to change the date because of a conflict. We'll publish those out once all of those are confirmed. We'll have those public information meetings and have demonstrations with vendors and different things that the community can see what's even possible, and then solicit their feedback for what are all of the things that you'd like us to look at as we start looking at the growth of these programs. We're a couple of years out, so this gives us plenty of time to have good conversations and make sure that people have as much input and as much education about that process as they possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So the next step is we have all received the annual evaluation form, which we have, so it's attached to tonight's agenda. Mm-hmm. I know it'll look familiar to all of you because we have adopted this, and it's kind of a model template. Now, we'll want to blend the 4 objectives that you've discussed into this document. so that the evaluation is both on those 4 objectives plus the additional
Criteria that are set.
that,
Yes, sir.
that we have adopted. And then at our next board meeting, we are required to meet in executive session without the superintendent to discuss the evaluation, your individual evaluations, and then to do a board evaluation, then to meet in executive session with the superintendent, and then we can then discuss the outcomes of that in public, either in public meeting or in writing. I would imagine that we would do both. So I guess before opening up to any comments or questions, I would ask if you deem it reasonable, since we have to have this done by March 1st, so obviously we would like to try to accomplish this at the next board meeting on February 26th, that we see if we could have a deadline of Monday, close of business, February 19th, to submit your individual evaluations to me. Does that sound reasonable?
Could we make it Tuesday the 20th?
That's fine with me.
Just since we'll be in
Yeah,
Charleston
bless you.
for a few days,
Yeah.
and then there's no school Monday, so I just think Tuesday would be a
I think that makes sense.
better day.
What did you say?
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday close of business, or
What is that? Okay.
20th?
Fill out the evaluation.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Any questions? Great. Thank you.
What are we going to do, bring them in here?
No, can you, I guess we can talk to Janet if I'd say submit electronically to me if you can, or to work with Janet and we'll get it.
Okay.
We can scan them in
Yeah,
and email them to you.
you can't.
When I
Janet
say
can.
we, I mean Janet. We all know she does work. I thought that was understood.
It's the proverbial.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for presenting this and for giving that overview of the goals and status report. I understand that we do not anticipate an executive session.
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. Any comments from or updates from the board? Hearing none, the only thing I would add is that thank Ms. Sloan at Wildwood Middle School today for inviting, as part of her West Virginia government class, she invited our Senator Capito to visit with students, and a couple of board members had an opportunity to attend. Really appreciate Senator Capito spending some time in the Panhandle and some time in our schools. It was a great session. I thought the students asked great questions. She, as you would expect, was very good on her feet. And but I have to give a shout out to that jazz band. They were great, and she really enjoyed them as well. So
The trombone section
Those
was a little iffy.
yeah, the trombone. Yeah, I may have to recuse myself on that. So. If nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.